Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday's Flash Briefing. I'm Verl Workman. I'm your host, and I'm excited to be here today. We've got a tremendous guest, one of our good friends, senior coach at Workman Success Systems, Jason Fenwick. Jason, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Verl. I'm super excited to have this opportunity to talk to you and everybody else.
We're gonna have a great conversation today. We're going to talk about leverage and systems and really help growth strategies. But before we get going, I want to welcome everybody and encourage you all to, as you come on to the Facebook Live, just put in the chat who you are and where you're from. So Sharice is here, says hello and good afternoon. LaShonda is here. Great. Welcome to both of you. As you come on to the Facebook Live, just say hello. Tell me where you're from. That'd be great. And then as I'm talking to Jason, if you have questions or you would like to ask a specific thing that you think he might be able to help with, just type it in the comments. I'll do my best as we go through and interview Jason today to get to questions and do our best to answer them. So, Jason, there's a few things that I love about you. You have a tremendous background and one of the smartest people I've ever met. But besides that, I love how much you love being a father. And of all the things I respect about you, it's when we talk about your kids and you talk about the trips that you do with them, it makes my heart warm. And so tell us a little bit about you and your family. Let's start with that.
Okay. I'm a father of 3 kids. I'm divorced. I've been divorced probably 14 years now. So the kids were about 3, 5, and 7 when that occurred. And I made a commitment then that they were going to be the primary and that everything else in my life would revolve around the kids. And that's one of the reasons I love coming out to Utah. It's so family oriented. It reminds me of when how I grew up. But for those of you who may not do the math, about the time I made that commitment, the entire country dove into a recession.
That's right.
And so it wasn't the best time to be in real estate. And so I think that's when God tests you. And, you know, when you ask God for a blessing, he sends an opportunity, and that opportunity is usually wrapped in a challenge. And at the time, it challenged me to, commit to the kids and taking them to school, picking them up, and, you know, everything else that goes along with it. But what it did is it drove me to search for systems that I could put in place in my life that could free me up, not only do the business that I needed to do to support my family, but also to have the time to coach football, coach basketball, be the team dad or the room dad, or be on the board of the kids' school and all that stuff. And so I'm huge, as Verl, as you know, in the systems. It's one of the things I love about Workman Success is the systems that it puts in place. And the flip side of that is it really frees you up to live the life you want to live and be there for your family. And so I'm blessed now. My kids are 18, 20, and 22. My oldest is getting started her PhD at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and my younger 2 are at Hampton University. My boy is in finance, and my daughter's in social work, freshman and sophomore. And so now I don't know what to do with myself because I have all this free time because they're in college. But that for me was the big why for why I did what I did. And so I'm pretty psyched about that.
I love that. You know, my kids have put a lot of pressure on me to copy you and to let them pick a trip every year and go somewhere with dad. Tell me what you do with your kids about that. That's kind of a fun tradition.
So one of the things, well, Verl, you have too many kids.
I know. I got to get there
all the time. So one of the things I used to do, and you realize this as you live life. I had 3 kids. They were 2 years apart, and I saw them as a group. You know, just like, hey, you know, I like a gaggle of ducks, one right after the other. And what this period taught me was really to see them individually. And so I realized is as 3 individuals, they had different tastes in different things. And so what I started doing a few years back was having vacations and letting them pick the vacation. So we do a few family vacations all together, but then I would let them pick whatever vacation they wanted to go on. So my youngest, who's my only son, is Santiago. He wanted to go up to New York City for 4 days and go see the Knicks play the 76ers at the Madison Square Garden and then go shopping for tennis shoes. And so we did that. And then my middle daughter, Olivia, that I'm thinking back to this particular year, wanted to go see Hamilton. And I looked at the prices in New York City and I'm like, I could buy all of New York City for what the price was. So, but then I noticed in Chicago that they had it. So we flew to Chicago for a 4-day weekend and went to see Hamilton, went out to get hot dogs, pizza, and, do all the great stuff that Chicago has to offer. It was really a time to bond. And then my oldest, Ileana, who's in marine science, getting her PhD in marine science, she wanted to go to Mexico. And so we went to Cabo, and we ended up going out to look at the sea lions and the wildlife and go boating and sailing. And so it really, really gave me an opportunity to know them each individually versus knowing them as a group. And so I treasure those trips, and they always would surprise me with the places they would pick, because I never would have guessed, oh, you want to go. One year, something happened. I can't remember why, but one of them picked to go up to Minnesota to see the Mall of America. And I'm like, where'd you even hear about that? And for some reason, we couldn't go there. So that's one trip I still owe. I think it's my son. So, but I encourage any parent to do that, because you really get to know your kids if you're away 4 days to a week with them.
We having 6 kids. What I love about that, Jason, is the individual. When you have a tribe, and every time you go somewhere, it's everybody goes. I love the idea of looking at each of your children as individuals and getting to know them and connecting with them. And I just think that's a great example that you set, just for me as a dad. And I appreciate that. And that's something that I admire. I really admire in you.
What it's helped me with is it also helps me to connect to people. Right now, I'm mentoring a young father in our office, just had his firstborn, and his background isn't like, I come from a family of 5 kids, parents, grandparents, etc. But not everyone's blessed like that. And so, you see the transformation in him, with the birth of his first son. And so it's just being there to give encouragement, and remember that what we're really here for isn't to make money. It really isn't to sell houses. I mean, I know we're going to get into that. We're really here to impact lives, and all the systems and the different things help you to get back to what you're passionate about, which is impacting lives.
So I'd like to give all of our listeners, by the way, let me just give you a snapshot of who's on the call. We've got people from Houston, Texas, Grand Rapids, Michigan. We've had people say hello from Maryland. Wow. We've had people say hello from California. We've got Minnesota covered on here. So you've got a great group of people from all from a good cross section just piping in to say hello. And I'm just encourage those that join us to tell us who you are and where you're from. And it's fun to let Jason know all the people that are listening to the call today. So it's fun to see this group.
Wow.
And so for those of you that are joining us, this is Jason Fenwick. Jason Fenwick is a senior coach with Workman Success, but that's not really what makes him great. That's just, we get blessed by having him share his knowledge with us. But let me give you a little bit about Jason. Jason has a background as a business analyst, a financial analyst, an operational analyst. He's a risk analyst. He does risk analysis. He does market analyst. He's a sales trainer. Now I'm just getting started. He's a lawyer. So that means he's smart at all those things, not just does them all. And he's a strategic planner. He's also a partner in a brokerage with over 600 agents. And so he develops and understands all different areas of business. I reached out to Jason the other day, and we were just talking about commercial real estate and where we thought the market was going to go, and whether or not we should wait to invest or if now is the right time. And so, there's only a handful of people that I reach out to in the country. And Jason's one of them, because he has a very unique perspective on things. And so everybody, please welcome Jason. We're also getting people saying hello from, we got more Houston, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia, and St. Louis saying hello.
All right.
Welcome to all of you. And I just want to get into this. This is a great opportunity when you have someone that runs all of these businesses as an attorney that has commercial and residential real estate investments. You're running a brokerage. You're a mentor to new fathers and coaching for workmen. It does not sound possible. And let's not forget to mention the part where you travel. How many days a year, Jason?
Last year, I think it was 129 days.
In the middle of COVID?
Traveled. Oh, I'm sorry. The year before was 129 days. This year with COVID, probably 60. I haven't counted the days, but it's still probably 60, 65, something like that.
Yeah, you were smart.
I've tried something new, which is go away for a month and just try that out. And so that's been working well.
Yeah. So in the middle,
but again, it goes back to the systems.
Let's get into it. So how does someone who has all of those things going on in their life, obviously successful, take a month off and go to somewhere where there's greater sunshine and beaches during the middle of a pandemic and still have growth in their business? How does that happen? Talk to me about systematizing your life.
The first thing is, when you listed all that stuff, I was like, geez almighty, am I doing all that stuff? So it builds slowly. So I don't want anyone to think that one day I just woke up and started doing 18 things. I don't know why. It's my personality. I start doing one thing, and then the next year I add something, and the next year I add something. And I love learning. That's the first thing. I like new things. I like learning about different things. And that's one of the great things about my association with Workman is I'm always learning. I've been here, I think, 5-6 years, Verl, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And every year is something new. But so it starts with just picking one thing. I didn't choose to go into real estate. A friend of mine came to me. I've always been in real estate in terms of investing, but in terms of the brokerage, a friend of mine came to me and asked me to do the due diligence on acquiring a brokerage and tell him which one that I thought at the time would be the best choice. And I did the analysis, and it ended up he agreed to go in a certain direction. He asked me to come along with him, and I've been riding. So I came into real estate and the brokerage and all that from a business background where I was working in venture capital and analyzing companies on how to buy them, how to sell them, what their valuation was, things of that nature. And it's been a great ride. We've grown the brokerage from nothing, 3 people on boxes, me and my 2 partners, to now 600 plus agents with a commercial division, a luxury division, and obviously a residential division. We're number 31 in terms of our particular brand in the nation, and we're number 1 in our area. But we've been blessed, and a lot of that is, to go back to your question, is systems. We're always looking for systems. We're always trying to plug into what's happening at the ground level of a transaction or a particular business or a particular industry. And if you can stay a little bit ahead of that, it becomes easier. I know that sounds counterproductive, but I once heard Wayne Gretzky say, when they described, why is he the greatest hockey player? He said, most people chase the puck. He goes, I figure out where I think the puck is going, and I go to where I believe the puck's going to go, and I wait for it. And when I get there, there's no one there. So it's easy to look great when you're the only guy with the puck and you can just drive straight in. And I tried to implement that in my life, where I try and stay ahead of what's going on. But some of the benefits are, to go back to your original question, is a while back I decided I wanted to travel and see the world, wanted to take my kids with me. And I began just with small things. I said, you know what, wouldn't it be nice to travel 30 days out of the year? And I thought, to be honest with you, that was crazy. I mean, crazy. I remember when I wrote it down on my vision board, which, if you don't have a vision board, got to have a vision board, because no matter how crazy your vision is, it can come true. I remember when Verl was starting the company and he told us some things about how it's going to grow, and now he's blown past that. It's all on the vision board. And so anyway, I put it on my vision board, 30 days, and I broke it up into like 3 days here, 4 days there, and, a couple 7-day trips. And at the end of the year, I happened to be past 30. And then I moved it to 45 days, then 60 days, then 75 days. And I haven't put it on my vision board anymore, because now it's just a part of my life. It just happens kind of automatically. Anything can be built from the ground up, but you got to put it on your vision board. You got to put systems in place that help you and support your vision, whatever it is.
So as you're coaching agents, and whether they're in your brokerage or they're Workman clients, as you're coaching people, what are 2 or 3 of the key systems that you love to see people implement, that you can pretty much guarantee you'll get a result if you follow this system? Give me an example of that you love.
The first is Workman has the perfect week, and really you have to sit down and time block and say, what do I want to accomplish? If you don't have a calendar and it isn't in place where everyone knows what you're doing, when you're doing it, and why, then you're just freelancing. And the problem with freelancing is there's nothing that anchors you to a goal or an outcome. And so I'm big on having a calendar that pushes you towards your goal. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I'm big on having written goals. So when I get up in the morning, I brush my teeth, there's some goals right there. When I go in my closet, there are more vision boards. When I come in my office, I'm sitting here looking right now at some goals. You have to have your goals all around you. When I go in the gym, there are goals. And so I break them up depending on the part of the house or the business, so that it's particular to that. And then the last one is I'm big on automation. It's one of in terms of whatever the best tool is. And so Workman has some great tools out there in terms of being able to track what you're doing and how you're doing it and predict it. There's some great technology. I'm not a technology person, so I'm not the guy who gets the cutting edge of everything. But what I do is I try and find the tools that free me up and free my time up. That's what allows me to do multiple things at one time.
So that's a lot. So we can digest that and get into each of those things. If there's a system, no, that's okay. Look, if there's a system that Jason brought up or talked about during this interview and you want it, go in the comment section and put your email address and say, I want that. And we'll send it to you. We'll just give you a perfect week and we'll show you what it looks like, or a daily success habits tracker.
Oh, and I'm sorry. We didn't explain what that is. The perfect week says Monday through Friday, basically 5 a.m. to midnight. You're basically trying to put in what you are going to try and accomplish. So all the major things in your life. And when my children were small, this really helped me out when my children were small, because I would put in on Sunday night, every Sunday night, I would go in and start time blocking. Okay, my daughter has ice skating 3 times a week at this time, block that out. My son has basketball then. And so it started telling me what were my open times to do different things, have meetings, make phone calls, etc. Now, one of the secrets that I do that I never told Verl, so I'm going to lean in so nobody tell anyone, is
nobody can hear us.
I do a perfect week every week. I have one week that kind of symbolizes what I want my week to look like, but we're never going to be perfect. But then every Sunday night, I do the week. I say, well, if I could map out this week, what do I want to accomplish? And then I have different color codes that say, is this a goal? Is this business development? Is this just an issue? Or is this a project, just a regular task? And that pushes me along. And so that's the one thing a lot of times people do a perfect week and they just kind of then put it in the drawer and that's it. If you do it every week, it really keeps it alive as a tool.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because we designed it to do every week. But a lot of people just build it once. But the key to having success with it is that I like to think of as intentionally creating the week that you want instead of having it just happen to you.
Happen to you.
Right. So
I'm not going to lie to you. If you saw my perfect weeks from when I started, they are the most backwards, poorly constructed. So if you're starting out, here's what I encourage you to do. We were all in the same place. Nobody just was born with this great business, or at least I wasn't. Verl, I know you've created your businesses. And so sometimes you see someone talking about it and you're like, I could never get there. My stuff was so raggedy, backwards, but I kept at it. And that's where having the big why is there. For me at the time, it was my kids. When I did the perfect week, I said, I'm going to be team dad, coach, all these things, on the board at the kids' school. And so I put all that stuff in first and then constructed my businesses and my day around my children. So I encourage you, if you have kids and you're wondering, or you have a robust home life, it can be done. But it's in the beginning. I actually need to go back and look at some of those perfect weeks from the beginning, because boy, I'm certain that they are just, I did them completely wrong, backwards, etc. But I kept at it.
I think that's the key, is that you don't quit, and it's okay to go look back at those. We just evolve. You start to realize that it makes a difference when you think about your week, and instead of just running out to show houses when someone calls, you put them in the slot where you said, this is when I'm going to show houses.
This is when and you'd be surprised how many people morph. So for someone like me, which Verl asked me, hey, how do you travel 129 days? This is before COVID, out of the year on vacation. It's because you train people around, there's an expectation suddenly. They're like, oh, well, Jason's going to be at his daughter's ice skating tournament or practice. Jason's going to be here at his son's basketball. And so when you talk to someone and they say, hey, well, I want to go see a house at whatever, 9:00 p.m. on Friday night or on Sunday, it's like, no, that's the Lord's day. I don't work on that day. Or then they start saying, oh, okay, well, when are you available? Because you have a big why. I could always point to, oh, my daughter has a soccer tournament. Oh, my son has this. And they're like, oh, okay, that's a big why that people can respect. And so they just do. And then I've morphed it into traveling. And now people around me know, okay, he's going to be gone a month. He's going to be doing this. But it started with the big whys early on in the perfect week.
It's funny, that's such a simple tool that when you start combining the tools together and you string them together, you look back at where you were and what's happening in your life today. It's pretty cool to see the transformation of the way you think and operate.
It is. I had hair then, so I can tell you how long ago it was. And it's really made a tremendous difference. So if you're sitting out there and you want to do something in 2021 that'll revolutionize your business, the first thing I say is write down your big whys, put them in a vision board, make them non-negotiable. My children were non-negotiable, period. Whatever yours is, and that drove it, and then lean into the perfect week as a starting place. That's helped me get to where I'm at. I'll put it that way.
So I want to talk about two other topics for sure. One is that
Sure.
it's been a crazy year, this whole 2020, with all of the pandemic, the social unrest, the diversity issues that have come to the forefront of the world. And I reached out to you early on in that process because I wanted to know what it was like for you living through, watching the world finally pay attention to some of the things that were happening out there. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about kind of your experience this year and what you've discovered through, through bringing diversity to the forefront of the minds of the public in a way that's never been done before?
So this has been an interesting year for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, male, female, Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, that issue. I have two daughters, so I've looked at the world differently because of my daughters. I'm African American. The world has woken up to a number of things that have been occurring for years, decades, because now they're being filmed. My children, my ex-wife is Puerto Rican, so they're half African American, half Hispanic. So there are things there. The first thing is we have to figure out, the one thing that I was encouraged by this year is whether it was with the pandemic or whether it was with the Me Too movement or the diversity initiatives and Black Lives Matter and things of that nature. It was that people woke up and said, there's something I can do, whether it affects me individually or not. So because I have two daughters, when they started doing things around Harvey Weinstein, I suddenly started paying attention. I went into our businesses and I said, hey, where can we improve some things? I could have just done nothing because it doesn't impact Jason individually because I'm a man. But what I was really encouraged by in terms of the diversity initiatives, the number of people that reached out that suddenly, for one of a few times in Americans' history, we stopped and kind of looked at this legacy that we have and where do we want to go with it, and how can we reach out and be more neighborly to all of our neighbors. And so it opened a door that I think I'd love to think will stay open and will continue to evolve, not only as a nation, but also as a people, and continue to do it. There are things that I care about that don't impact me. And I think everyone should be given an opportunity to just make a conscientious choice to pick something that's outside of their sphere to invest in, and their time, their energy, just to help, because that you coming from the outside and helping really can set things and move things forward, regardless of what it is.
Yeah, I love that.
In that regard.
I love that. I think that indifference is one of the biggest crimes. It's because it doesn't affect you. You don't think about it. And I kind of found myself in that place where, it didn't really affect me. So I didn't really think about it. But then all of a sudden it was everywhere. And I started thinking about does my indifference affect other people? And I think it does. And so I have to stop being indifferent and have to be focused on equality and making sure people don't feel different because of where they're from or how they believe or all of the different things that create diversity.
And there's so many things that it really, the honesty is, it's small things. It isn't really anything big. There are things that I can say as a man to another man, like, hey, we're not going to do that here. Stop that. Whatever that is, if it deals with women, there are things that other cultures can say and step in. There are things that I can say being older that will help someone younger just stepping in. And so it is caring. And we're in that business anyway, because when you sell a house, you're selling a home, you're selling the American dream, you're selling community. And so what we do touches all aspects of a person's life, that we're in it anyway. And so we might as well, be caring, because it's good for business. It's not only good for the community, it's also good for business. And, so there is a payoff there besides just feeling good and doing good.
I love that. I like this has been our theme the whole year, Jason, is serve regardless of opportunity. And I feel the same way about equality, regardless of what the ramifications of your business are. I think that the good things will happen to good people, but serve anyway and lift people up. So I love your message.
This has been a year that is completely unpredictable for anybody.
Oh, it's crazy.
I mean, if you really think about it, we've had so many things happen in this year that if just one of those things happened, if all we had was just the pandemic, that would be huge. If all we had was just the social unrest, that would be huge. If all we had was just the Me Too, the list just goes on and on. Right. And it's like, it really grounds you in what's important to you, I think. And my father always said, when pressure comes, you either focus or fold. And it's been a year that a lot of people have focused and done well. But it's also created an opportunity for those people who, for whatever reason, whatever was going on in their life, that they felt the inclination to fold or slow down, that it's incumbent upon those of us who are doing well or who have focused to just reach back and say, hey, you can do it. There's brighter days coming for all of us.
I love that. And I'm going to I appreciate the messaging, and I appreciate your willingness to just kind of share. Jason, so let's talk about the brokerage of the future. What's coming down the pipeline? I mean, we talked about this the other day about commercial property being less need.
I know.
Right? Because people don't need the space. People are working great from home. When you think about the brokerage of the future, what does that mean to you?
So here's the thing. We're up at 600 plus agents, and like I said, I think we're number 31 or 41 in our system in terms of nationwide. We're number one in our area, and I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just kind of saying that to set the stage.
And it's okay. Tell us who you're with. Who's your what brand?
We're with Keller Williams. We're with
awesome.
Keller Williams. We're with Keller Williams for Preferred Properties up in Maryland. We serve the DC, Maryland, DC, Virginia market. And we're number 31. Like I said, I always get at 31 or 41 in terms of profitability, and one is size-wise. But here's the deal. When you're that large, you would think everything's perfect. Oh, this is great. I want you to picture a balloon. If you've never been in a balloon, and you get in a balloon, and at first it goes up 10 feet, and you're like, oh, this is really nice. Look, I can see out over the houses. Then it goes up 20 feet, then 30 feet. As it keeps rising, you start to realize you don't know anything about balloons. You thought you knew something about balloons. You don't know that much. So if it pops, it's a larger fall. One of the things that I've been studying, and Verl and I had a conversation with, is, and internally we're looking at, is what does the brokerage of the future look like? And what I know with certainty is, we've been in business 16 years, is it doesn't look anything like the last 16 years. It's going to be completely different. We have different markets that we're going to have to communicate with. As much as people talk about millennials, I'm 35 years old, plus a few years, but they have a different communication style, and they use different technology, and they use tools differently, and they interact differently, and they're the biggest market sector coming up, and we have to do that. The agent now, compared to where, when we opened our brokerage, there were still signs with with phone numbers you called to get a recording and little flyers in the box. The agent is so much more empowered now. And so there's so many more tools available to them. And so the brokerage has to be able to provide so many more things. The consumer, completely different from 15 years ago. 15 years ago, we told the consumer the majority of the information they knew about a house, a neighborhood, etc. Now the consumer comes to the transaction highly knowledgeable with access to an almost unlimited amount of information, which has raised the bar on what you need to do in order to be a professional compared to the consumer. You still have to know so much more. And so we're still trying to figure that out for someone our size and for then the competition. Who are the brokerages that were our competition 5 years ago? We've seen major shuffling in terms of market share and who's had what in terms of, at least locally where we're at. And so it's a dynamic time. And the good thing about it being a dynamic time is that there are fortunes made and lost in dynamic times. So that tells me that there could be some kid out there who right now is listening, or a young lady who's just starting out, and she's like, I don't have much, but her agility, her ability to adapt new technology, new systems like that Workman's offering can take her and catapult her ahead of the competition if she's focused and uses them right. And that's both exciting and scary for someone like, for the old dogs who've been in the business just a little while.
It's so true, Jason. You make me think about these young people that work in our company, and we're in a meeting and we're talking about an idea or something that I would love to build. And during the meeting, they're on their phones, Googling it and looking for the answers and coming up with the technology. And they're going, well, there's 3 companies that do it. And here's 2 of them. I've looked at this one and the reviews on it. I mean, I'm still thinking of the concept, and they're solving the problems. The way that they come to the way that the consumer and the young people look at technology today is just, it's attached to them. It's part of who they are. It's just really interesting.
It's who they are. And the other thing is, think about, you remember the iPhone's only been around for 12 years. That's less, I mean, think about the revolution in terms of what it's occurred and the bandwidth. And I was just talking to a friend of mine about wiring a house for cable. You know, we don't need that anymore.
Right.
We're talking about different things that don't exist. So take just the phones that we use and go forward 5 years as to what their capabilities, or 10 years, what their capabilities would be, and how fast the transmission of information will happen. That's how fast the business is going to go. And we have to stay ahead of that, both as brokers or as agents. We have to stay ahead of the consumer, else the consumer won't see the value in what we're providing. But here's the one key that I will toss out to you that makes me reassured. And the pandemic has brought it out, and it's also brought it out in Verl's business as well, which is this. At the end of the day, we can go to the moon and back, we can go to Mars and back, but at the end of the day, we have to touch people. And this business is about touching people. And Verl asked me, what's the one thing I learned this year in the pandemic? Is I was a systems person. I was what's the precedence? How can we build all these systems? And oftentimes I didn't see the people. This year has slowed me down and made me see the people in a different way, and see people at different stages of life, different socioeconomic levels, different backgrounds, and then look at how all of that is woven into the fabric of America and the fabric of the community I live in and the people we service, and see the value of it. And that's where the business is going to, that's where we're going to be able to grow business. So that's what encourages me. No matter how fast we get, we still have to do it at the dinner table. We still have to talk to people where they are and take them to where they want to go.
You know, as you talk about that, I think that's our unfair competitive advantage as agents, as realtors, as real estate agents, is our ability to connect with people. And the best technology in the world does not replace us. And
yes,
if you get good at the technology, I think you talked about several things that resonate with me. One is that we have to be way better. And so the consumer's education level and access to data is way beyond where it was when we started in real estate. I mean, we used to think that our secret sauce was the MLS book. And And then it went online, and we're like, well, yeah, but you can't. You got to
You're
have the
gonna have to
password.
explain what the MLS book
Right?
is to like half of the audience. That's yes, that was the actual book. There
Yep.
was no computer. Yeah.
I could always tell a realtor driving down the car because they had 6 months of comps in the trunk, and it looked like a lowrider driving down the street. And
That's
so,
it. Yeah.
yeah, that must be a realtor. They got comps in the back.
And they knew it, and no one else did.
Yep.
And now everyone knows. Like I said, people come to the transaction at this level,
Right.
and you have to be up here, and that's in everything. My kids are coming to me, telling me the law. Telling me all types of things. My friend who's a surgeon, I have a friend who's like 3 different types of specialty surgeons that, are like the cream of the crop. His kids are coming to him, telling him about medicine and diagnosing themselves and this and that and challenging. And he's a vascular surgeon, thoracic surgeon, general surgeon, and one other type of board certified surgeon. And like seen as like the guy, like and to his kids, he's like, yeah, Dad, Google says this. Like, we don't know what you're talking about. And so it's every industry. We're in that.
You made me think about, I've got a sophomore in high school who's taking a real estate class. And,
I got one of those too.
Yeah. And so he and his teacher know more about real estate than I would ever know. And he came and sat down with me the other night, which was it's a win when your kid asks you for advice. And so he's 16. He sat down and he said, Dad, I got to build this. I got to build a slide deck and convince my teacher why they should buy this investment property.
My son is who's a freshman in high school. He had worked for us a couple years, and freshman in college. I'm sorry, but he worked in high school for us a couple years, and he was looking at wholesaling, and he's studying it and looking at these different things. And so I'm kind of waiting for him to come ask me about something, and didn't occur. Then I started overhearing a conversation, and this goes back to communication, where people were talking about, or millennials were talking about house hacking, and I had no idea what they were talking about. It wasn't until I asked someone, and they're like, "Oh, you buy a house and then you have roommates and share it." And I'm like, "Oh, we've been doing that forever."
Right.
That's been around forever. We just didn't have fancy terms. But our kids want to learn it on their own. They view, it's funny to sit and say, well, I've been in this business for a little bit. Maybe I have some perspective. But if our children are this way, imagine what our customers are like in the future in terms of the amount of information they're going to have. And I think that's where wisdom comes from. You can find anything on the internet. If you go to the internet right now, there'll be people telling you don't buy a house, rent. And then there'll be people saying buy a house, rent. There'll be people telling you that the market's going to go through the roof in 2021. And there'll be people that telling you we're going to go back to the Stone Age in terms of the Depression. The nice thing about being a professional is that I can sit down and tell you what's going to happen at your kitchen table in your situation and give you advice on what I think you should do for your family. And that's the difference that we have to bring to everyone's attention. And the nice thing about the Workman family in terms of the company is that I can pick up the phone and I can call people across the country and I can say, hey, this is what I'm seeing here. Can you tell me what you're seeing over there? And we have a forum that we can kind of, figure out what's around the corner, what's going to happen and how it's going to impact us. And so that's one of the great things I love about the association with the Workman family, that it allows us to do that. And so those are our secret weapons.
I love that. And the wisdom of the crowd, that's a legit network, isn't it? It's a bright group.
That's what keeps me in the middle of the road versus driving off the edge of the road. And maybe you should have your son call my son, and they can compare notes from one coast to the other. Neither of them will come talk to us, but
Oh yeah, they can talk about how much more they know than their dads. I think that's the reality of what their life is right now, and it's okay. I want them to believe that they're invincible and they can do all things. So, Jason, we got to wrap up, but let me just share I want you to just share, if you're a team leader or a broker owner that is trying to figure out how to level up the business, mm-hmm. and I don't want you to say coach with Workman. I want you to give them like 1 or 2 things that are like the most important things that you would have them focus on in 2021 if they want to level up. And when I say level up, that means double.
Yeah. So first off, the first thing you don't want to do if you're slightly concerned is you don't want to talk to Verl because Verl has one number in his head that he goes to, and it's double. It's 2x period. Like, hey, let's just double it. What do we have to do? Double it. But to answer your question, Workman has a great, and we just redid it, a great business plan. And it walks you through a couple things that I think the biggest thing that a team leader can do, or a mega agent or a brokerage owner can do, is be honest with themselves. The market is going to be brutally honest with us for the next 5 years and show us our weaknesses. So you ought to be honest with yourself first. And what does that mean? That means when you take the SWOT, when you go through it, it has a personal SWOT analysis. But I would also encourage you to do a brokerage or a team SWOT analysis and have each of your players do it. Then it also says, what do you want for this year, being 2021? And what do you want for the next 3 years and 5 years? And compare that and say, okay, well, this is what we want. And these are our weaknesses, strengths, our opportunities, and our threats. Now, it's two different things. How do we put together an analysis, a gap analysis? And I'm going to be talking about this. Verl's invited me to talk about this at Leverage on January 21st and 22nd.
That's right.
It's going to be virtual this year because of COVID. But the goal is we got to figure out where you're at with brutal honesty. And there's nothing wrong. Like I told you before, my stuff was so raggedy when I started doing this stuff that I'd be ashamed to show it to you. But at least I was honest. That was the key. And then the goals were so lofty that I thought there's no way when we opened our brokerage, I thought if we get 60 people, that would be woo. And then I remember the little voice said, what about 80? And I said, dude, you're smoking something. You were never getting to 80. That's crazy town. Now we're at 600. But that's the two things. And then it's the analysis in between. And you have to look at the people on your team, the leverage. Leverage is not only a Workman conversation, but leverage is broken up into three things. The first thing is people. Can you leverage your people? Are they scalable? And our business plan will allow you to have that conversation, and the disc that we show you will allow it. Then there are the processes. So it's people, processes. How are your processes? What do they look like? We have the 7-figure ride along that's coming on that'll show you operationally what's doing. Your coaches know how to run large organizations, from whether it's a big brokerage or a big team or being a great solo agent that's doing a whole lot of business. We have someone that can fit each of you. So it's people, processes, and then tools. Do you have the right tools? I can tell you with certainty, I have a neighbor across the street. He's handyman. Every time when I first moved in, I've been here 21 years. He would walk across the street, watch me doing something, say, "You're not going to do that." I said, "Why not?" He goes, "You have the wrong tools. Your tools suck. Get the right tool." And so in my house, I have every tool now. But Workman has the right tools, or we can direct you to where you can get the right tools. And so those are the things that I would focus on. Do the business plan. Verl, I know that if you put your email down there, contact you. I'm pretty certain it's actually available for free on the website, if I recall correctly, or at least as a download. But if you just get that, that'll tell you where your gaps are between where you are and where you want to be. And then the last thing I would encourage you is find a mentor. That's what the whole Workman success part is, because having the tools, understanding what the gap is, you can learn it yourself, but it may just take you a little while longer. And the problem we have in today's business environment is it's all about speed of implementation and understanding at a high level. And that's what the coaches allow you to figure that out.
Absolutely true.
It's a long answer. Sorry about that.
It's a long answer, but it's a great answer. People, process, and systems and tools. And then find someone that's been down the road before and have them guide you through the process. And I think that's great advice.
That's it.
I just want to say thank you for sharing with everybody today. On behalf of Workman Success Systems and Jason Fenwick, thanks for joining our Wednesday Flash Briefing. Have an incredible holiday season. Enjoy your families and get ready and buckle up, because 2021 is going to be a fantastic ride. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Jason.
It is. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
If you are ready to level up your real estate business, set up a coaching consultation by sending an email to coach@workmansuccess.com. That's coach@workmansuccess.com.